Good evening, friends. I just came in from the rain from Barnes & Noble, and I want to talk about the Criterion collection sale Blu-rays that I bought this year, or later half of this year. I bought some of them from the Criterion website from their flash sale, and the rest of them I went to a Barnes & Noble near my house to buy. So here are all of them that I bought. I like to buy Blu-rays that I've already watched and like, because I want to make sure that I actually watch the Blu-rays that I buy. So most of them are gonna be rewatches, and there are two blind buys that I wanted to try out on Blu-ray for the first time. So starting with the rewatches, this was my first pick. This is the first thing that I picked out during the sale. I watched this movie when it came out in theaters last year in 2024. I waited for it to come out. I was counting down the days, and I watched it on the first day that it was released in theaters. I love this movie. It's about a black cat who has to survive in a desolate world without humans, where it floods and drains again and again. And this cat meets some friends, and they have to survive together on a sailboat. I liked that this movie didn't anthropomorphize the animals. They didn't make them act like humans or talk in human language or reference human behavior. They're just animals trying to survive together. That was my favorite thing about this movie, and in my opinion, what makes this movie very special. And I love this movie, but I don't think I'm gonna rewatch it anytime soon, because I'm really not good with animals being in proximity to peril, or being hurt or not being safe and coddled. And I have a cat that I adopted shortly before watching this movie last year. And after I saw this movie, I came home and I hugged my cat and I started crying and telling her that I'm gonna keep her safe. And one of my biggest trauma in movie experience was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo with Rooney Mara and Daniel Craig. There's a cat in that movie, and what happens to that cat in the movie really traumatized me. And when I rewatched that movie this year, I had to skip over the part where that thing happens to the cat. So I love this movie and wanted to have it. I just don't think I'm gonna watch it anytime soon. But it's a beautiful movie. If you haven't seen it, you really should. The second disc I picked out was Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. This is probably in my top 10 favorite movies of all time, by Celine Sciamma. This is a movie that's set in 18th century France, and with a young noble woman named Eloise and a painter named Marianne. And Eloise is getting married off into a marriage that she does not like, and Marianne is commissioned to paint her portrait to be sent to her future spouse. And the two women fall in love, and yes, it's a sad story, and maybe a lesser director would have made it more emotional and melodramatic and more lugubrious, but this is Celine Sciamma, and she really restrains in showing emotions, which makes the ending more of a gut punch. I cried the first time I saw the ending, and I can't wait to rewatch this on a Blu-ray in high definition. So, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. The third one I picked is To Die For. So earlier in this year, I went to Barnes & Noble to buy from the Criterion sale, and I wanted to buy some Nicole Kidman movies. Then I chose The Others instead of this one, so I've been waiting to get this one, To Die For by Gus Van Sant. So this movie is about a young woman who is living in rural America with her husband, and she wants to become like a nationally televised, like CNN level anchorwoman, and she is willing to do anything to achieve that goal. And this movie came out in 1995, and it must have been very daring for its time to show a woman who is so almost completely unconcerned about her role as a housewife, and just wanting to become successful instead of being a part of a traditional family. And this movie has a special cameo by David Cronenberg toward the end of the film, which is funny because the other movie I bought by Gus Van Sant also has a special cameo, but by William S. Burroughs. So that's kind of funny. This is another Gus Van Sant title I bought. This movie I watched not too long ago, after I saw the Matt Dillon Criterion Collection Closet video. I wanted to see a movie with Matt Dillon in it that I hadn't seen before. And this movie was the pick that I chose at the time. And this movie is like a drug bender story with young people who like steal from and rob drugstores to fuel their drug habit. And like I said, there's a William S. Burroughs cameo at the end, which is funny because David Cronenberg is, I guess, one of the two directors who made adaptations of William S. Burroughs' work, and the only adaptation of Naked Lunch by David S. Burroughs. So these two titles have that in common, and both are awesome movies. This movie I also saw not too long ago. I saw it on the Criterion channel when I saw the thumbnail. I don't know why this movie is more famous because I hadn't really heard of it before I saw it on the Criterion channel. It's a movie by Alice Wu called Saving Face. This movie is really good. It's really cute. It's kind of a rom-com about a young Chinese American woman living with her mom, played by Joan Chen, and she falls in love with another young Chinese American woman, and it's their love story, and it's told in a rom-com-ish way, but doesn't, look over, heavier issues and concerns that a lot of Asian American people experience, and like their relationships with their parents and their experiences within the Asian American societies in America. And like I really identified with the main character, Will, a lot, because I'm also an Asian American person who grew up in close proximity to Asian American communities, even though I'm not Chinese. And I don't think you have to be queer. This is a queer story, but I don't think you have to be queer to identify with her, because the story doesn't pick and choose between being a queer story and being an Asian American identity story. So it was a really awesome movie. And another thing I liked about this movie is that it doesn't overlook or brush aside the mom, Joan Chen's character, as being like not a sexual being or not a romantic being just because she's older. Joan Chen, the mom, has her own romantic arc, so I really like that. So if you haven't seen Saving Face, you should. It's an amazing movie. So I wanted to see it again, so I bought the Blu-ray. The next one is Paris, Texas. I saw this movie maybe like 6 or 7 times. It's one of my favorite movies. For some reason, I didn't have the Blu-ray for the longest time. One reason is because it was just so available on streaming for me, so I just kept watching it on streaming. But this movie is from 1984, and it's set in like rural America, which usually doesn't really appeal to me that much because I am from America, and rural America is not necessarily a romantic place for me. But this movie is so beautiful that I just can't look away from it. It's 2 hours and like 25 minutes. It's a long movie, but every time I watch it, I can't look at anything else. Like no phone, no distractions, just concentrating on this movie. And it has Harry Dean Stanton, and it's a story about him and his brother and a young child trying to find his missing wife, played by Natasha Kinski. And it has some crazy shots when he comes face to face with his wife, and they're sitting across from each other, and there's a glass panel between them. This is an amazing movie, one of my favorites, and I finally have the Blu-ray. So next time I rewatch this, I'm gonna do it on a Blu-ray. This one I got from Barnes & Noble. I didn't know that these movies were on Criterion, and it looks like a recent ad. The spine number is 1257, so it's pretty recent. These movies, it's Jean de Florette and Manon of the Spring. Hello, come here. And these movies I watched but barely remember. I watched them in high school. My high school French class watched these 2 movies together. My French teacher wanted us to see French films and get used to, listening to French as spoken by French people. And these are kind of deep cuts, but these are 2 of the movies that he chose. And I remember these movies just being beautiful. They're set in like French countryside. But I barely remember the plot or anything because they were shown like cut up into pieces because the classes were like 15 minutes long. And I can't wait to rewatch these and kind of relive that experience of being in high school and watching these in the class again. So Jean de Florette and Manon of the Spring by Claude Berry. I didn't even know the director, but I'm gonna rewatch these pretty soon. The next one I also rewatched several times. It's Cure by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, the other great Kurosawa, right? And this movie yes, it's a horror movie, and I'm usually not good with horror movies. I'm bad at watching them. I get scared too easily. But this movie is it's a masterclass, I think, in showing or telling a story through its atmosphere. So this is one of the scariest horror movies that I've seen, and probably one of the best horror movies of all time. But there's no jump scares really, and there aren't any. There's not that much gore or really any supernatural beings that scare you. Uh, it's more about like human psychology and what the manipulation of human psychology can make people do. And this movie has a really deep uh, atmosphere of despair that you can't really avoid, and that stays with you for a long time after you finish the movie. And I'm gonna rewatch this again, and this movie is getting more famous now. I mean, it has a Criterion Blu-ray disc, and before, like, no one had really heard of it, but I watched it after I saw an interview by Bong Joon-ho, and he said this was one of his favorite movies. I'm glad it's gaining traction, but if you haven't seen Cure, you should. It's really good. And these two are movies that I've saw but didn't really understand, so I am rewatching them to understand them, but I like them enough to get a Blu-ray. So this one actually, Crash by David Cronenberg. I saw this not long ago. It's from 1996, but it's very sexually forward, for its time especially. It's a movie that tries to merge like human bodies and sexuality with machines, more specifically cars, and it deals with people with fetishes with cars and car crashes. And it is a very daring movie sexually. And I think I rewatched this right after I saw Titan by Julia Ducournau, because they have similar themes, which is merging of human bodies and sexuality with cars. But I don't think I fully understood it, because I remember watching it for the first time and feeling kind of shocked, but not entirely convinced as to its greatness. I don't think it's considered the greatest David Cronenberg film, but I'm willing to see it again to see if I can get more out of it. So I bought the Blu-ray, Crash by David Cronenberg. And it is based on a novel by J.G. Ballard. So I guess this kind of goes with David Cronenberg's adaptation of Naked Lunch as well, because both this original novel and Naked Lunch are considered kind of like shock novels. So maybe I'll read the book and see if I appreciate it better. And another movie I saw and wish to understand better is Querelle by Fassbinder, based on a novel by Jean Genet called Quarrel of Brest, I think. I have the book, I haven't read it. So this movie I saw a couple of years ago, actually like 6 years ago, before COVID, when I was trying to get more into Fassbinder films. But I put off buying the Blu-ray after it came out because I didn't like the cover that much. I think this cover is ugly. That's just my opinion. And hey, apparently there was like a lot of internet discourse about whether this cover is made by AI or not. Apparently it isn't, but it kind of looks like it to me. So, and I guess I kind of get it. I kind of get like the overly sexualized male body in the style of like Tom of Finland, which also is adjacent to the aesthetics of this film. Uh, like I said, I'm trying to understand this film better because the first time I saw it, I didn't really get it. But I wanted to buy this and watch it on a Blu-ray because the set of this movie is so unique that I never forgot it. It's one of the most unique and weirdly atmospheric sets probably in cinema, like movie history. Like one of the most unique sets in movie history. And it has this yellowish, like sunsetish backdrop to it, and it's on a soundstage, and the sets are just, they're weird, but they're so memorable that I couldn't forget them. And I haven't seen anything else like it. It can't be really recreated, I don't think. And it's from 1982. And I recently saw Luca Guadagnino's Queer, the adaptation of the William S. Burroughs novel. So his name comes up again. And that movie is actually very obviously inspired aesthetically by this film. But even that was not even close to what this movie felt like for the first time to me. Obviously, the Luca movie is supposed to be more pretty. It's supposed to be prettier movie, but this movie has that feel of artifice, and at the same time, something that's like raw and unfiltered. So unique. And I can't wait to watch it again and see if I understand it better because I was significantly younger in 2019. And maybe I'll see it again and appreciate it more. So these are the movies that I already saw and wanted the Blu-ray physical media experience with. Now, these two are blind buys. I haven't seen them before. So this one is an absolute blind buy because I haven't seen anything else by the director, which is Limohang Jeremiah Mosese. I haven't heard of him. I've heard of this movie online. I saw some talks about this movie online. It's called This Is Not a Burial, It's a Resurrection. Apparently it's, I mean, the introduction says, with a poet's eye for place, light, and the spiritual dimensions of everyday existence, Mosese creates a meditation on the concept of homeland and transcendent elegy for what is lost in the name of progress. And it's apparently about an elderly woman who lost her husband and children. She prepares for her own death and she wants to be buried alongside her ancestors. I can't wait to experience this for the first time. I think I'm gonna do it soon. But I hope I like it. A lot of people that I know liked it, so hopefully I will too. So this is a blind buy. And this is also a blind buy, but I'm more familiar with the director's works. It's by Claude Chabrol, called La Cérémonie, with Isabelle Huppert and Sandrine Bonnaire. I know that these two women are gonna be doing some crazy things in this movie, but I intentionally haven't searched for the premise or the plot of this movie. I liked Claude Chabrol movies, so I think I'm gonna like them. I like this one too. So these two are my blind buys. And these are my Criterion collection sale buys for November of 2025. Let me know if you've seen these movies already and you like them, or let me know what you have bought for the Criterion collection sale this year. Until next time, bye.